Good morning, everybody. Move, think, smile followers. All you rock stars and superstars out there seeking a better life, right? More energy, more health, more balance. And, today we're coming in here. We kind of took a break last week. We had a lot of really good client stuff going on, a lot of successes, a lot of phone calls that we were taking, a lot of people enrolling into things. And, we don't want to talk about that. What we really want to focus on today is, something that we've noticed over the past week. And we've talked to a ton of business leaders, business executives, business managers, and they are all, if there is one commonality, they are all struggling with the same thing. And that is employee turnover. They just can't seem to find high quality people who want to stay with them. And when they, and in the rare chance that they do find a high quality person, like I said, they don't stick around because there's just something not right. This is impacting their ability to reach critical goals, not only with the business or with their business unit or with their team, financially and productivity, but it's really eroding their own personal performance. It's taking their health is taking a hit, their energy is taking a hit. They're not doing any things they want to do. You can't even add the word balance in there because there is none, right? And this is what we're hearing over and over again, that it's like, if I just had the right employees, if I just had this or if I just had that, it would just start working out well. So guys, this is what we want to talk to you today. And this is really important. So we want to talk to you about, you need to stop worrying about turnover. You've got to take your focus off of turnover and you got to start focusing on what's getting your employees to stay. And I think it's really important. Ellie, you've got some really, really powerful stats on this, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at what some of the famous, industry leaders are saying, like Gallup, is that, 50% of people leave their companies because of managers, right? And that's just, it's sad to hear, right? That we struggle so much with our human communication and our human relationships that, you can take something that is so critical like your career and all the effort it takes to even just get into the work that you're going to be doing, or even if you're a business owner and you're hiring, all of these people, the fact that people are leaving simply because of the management style is just, it's a shame, right? It feels like such a waste because of all the things that people could be choosing to leave for. This is something that's so fixable and so, easy to start shifting.
Yeah. So basically, people don't leave a company. The stats and the research are coming out and they're overwhelming. They're very compelling. People don't leave a company. They leave their boss.
Yeah.
And it's coming out, and I think it's almost like 85 to 90% of the time. There are some situations where it's a little bit different, right? But it's normally people don't leave a company, they leave their boss. And this is why it's really important. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the three things that you can do, right, to boost not only or to reduce your employee turnover, but to also attract and keep high performing people that you are proud to have on your team, to reduce your workload so you can go over those growth factors or get more balance back in your life. That's one of the things a lot of these people are dealing with. It's like, I just work so much that I have to do everything that I just can't find the people to do things for me.
Yeah.
So the number one thing, and a lot of you are gonna be like, well, yeah, duh, I know this. You have got to be high performing. Okay. You've got to be high performing. And a lot of people start out being high performing. They start trudging up what we call success mountain to the top of freedom summit, and they make it about halfway and then they kind of hit this plateau and they just can't seem to get unstuck and they can't seem to make any forward momentum. They had some wins, they had some successes, but they just can't seem to get past that point. And that's because their performance has stalled. Sometimes it goes backwards. Sometimes it goes backwards. I mean, we've even talked to people. I think you talked to someone yesterday who said she had to take like this giant sabbatical because her performance was just going down. And you've got to keep your performance high. This is one of the things that attracts people. This is called kind of like the superhero complex. You've got to create a hero identity. You've got to be that person who's actually kicking butt, right? You got to be performing really well. And on top of that, you've got to keep it together. Elia, what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I think some of the toughest things for people is to really become aware of their own impact on other people. And this is something that's really difficult to do when you're super stressed out, you're overwhelmed, you're busy, you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. and you are just really not aware of how you're impacting other people. And of course, for all of us, it's much easier to see it in others than it is in us. But again, what's so, so key is like you're saying is, what kind of energy are you bringing to your company? Whether you're the manager yourself or whether you're the employee is really looking at, are you bringing scarcity energy? Are you bringing energy of chaos? Are you bringing energy of worry? Are you overwhelmed? This is all really, really key stuff because as we said before, Adam, it's like emotional states are contagious, right? You ever
Yes.
walk in a room when someone's in a really bad mood and we can pick up on that so easily. And a lot of times we'll leave in a bad mood if we're not conscious or aware of what we want to be feeling.
Well, so what you're talking about doing is, it's so easy for you to evaluate and observe somebody else.
Yeah.
Right. It's so easy to look at. It's like that person's not performing. That person's not performing. That person's not performing. That person's kind of performing. This guy's doing really well. This girl's not, whatever it is. Right. But the secret to this is if you could literally step outside of yourself and you could look down on your work environment, whether it be an office or a truck or whatever, wherever your space is where you do your career at, how would you evaluate yourself? Would you say that you are high performing like you need to be? Or like you used to be? A lot of people were high performing that aren't anymore. And then there are those people out there who know they could reach a higher level of performance, but just can't seem to get there. So that's step number one is evaluating yourself, lifting yourself out, looking down, and sometimes just drawing a box on a piece of paper and a stick figure. It's like, okay, that's me. This is what I do during the day. If I were to give myself a 1 out of 10 out of performance, what would I call that? And I can tell you, if you're dealing with employee turnover, it definitely shouldn't be an 8, 9, or 10. There's something going on there. You're not performing at the level that you need to be. The second thing you've got to do to keep people, to stop worrying about employee turnover. So you got to think about high performing. And if you want to be high performing, here's where most people drop the ball every time. And that is they're not healthy. Now, they might have a diet. They might have a good a diet or something like that. But the problem is your business, your career has an engine, right? It has a fuel source, and that fuel source is you, right? And you can only be at your optimal performance if you've got your optimal health. So this is where, we talk about how so many people forget that the brain is a living organ, right?
Yeah.
It controls down here, but it also relies on what's going down here. So this is an integrative unit, right? They've all your cylinders of your engine have got to be functioning at the same time, not just one or two of them. So if one cylinder is off, your performance is going to be off. So you've got to be healthy, and people are attracted to health. Right? One of the things that we see time and time again where people are leaving companies is one, because the manager, the leader is not performing at the level that the employees expect they should be. And they're making mistakes. They're doing things, or they're not holding up their end of the bargain. Right? Or two, they're just not healthy. Right? And when they're not healthy, sure, they can fake on a positive attitude and maybe they're a really nice person, but the employees know that. And this is kind of like, a pack of dogs, right? And so if the alpha dog all of a sudden starts to not be healthy anymore, the rest of the dogs really don't want to follow him. And a lot of times they'll just leave him there, or, and then they'll choose a different alpha. They'll either just leave and go find another pack, or they'll choose another alpha. They'll choose another leader. So that's something that's really important. Ellie, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you really hit on the head as far as just, again, it's sort of going back to that first thing of really checking in with the energy that you're bringing. And like you said, the integrative piece, which is that a lot of people will say, well, my mental game is really, really strong, but physically they're off, right? Or they're in a lot of internal conflict, or they're just not feeling that well physically, but they feel like they're still firing really well mentally, which is interesting when people say that because from what we found is people get used to a normal status quo of not operating that well, and they think they're operating well, right? But when they start to make these big shifts, when they start really supporting their bodies and their minds, like they're like, oh my God, I totally forgot like how incredible I can be and how productive I can be and how amazing, I can bring my team forward, right? And so again, we are on a slippery slope because to gauge or to actually see what the effects are, sometimes you've got to remember or experience what it's like to actually feel better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and here's a great exercise. So almost everybody out there, including myself and Elia, we have idols, we have role models, and you have different areas. You've got the realm of like physical fitness, right? And I've got these idols that are these elite Spartan racers that completely kick my butt, and I'm trying to figure out how to be like them, right? And I might be able to, and I might not be able to. Then I've got business leaders out there who are absolutely kicking butt and doing these really good performing things. And a lot of people are like, man, if I wish I could just be like that. And it might be somebody as big as Steve Jobs, or it might be somebody smaller that not a lot of people know about, or it might be kind of that quiet millionaire next door. It's like, how do they do that? What is their secret? What is their secret? I can tell you right now, if you start looking at that, you're going to see that they're high performing and they're healthy. They actually put health on their agenda. And that kind of puts us into the third thing, because remember, guys, your health, your energy is what fuels your brain. And when you've optimized your health and you're waking up refreshed and excited for the day, not unrefreshed, even if you're getting sleep or if you're not sleeping, and if you're worrying through the day and you're dealing with anxiety and depression and just overwhelm and not knowing where to go and you feel like you're stuck, you've got to take a look at your own health. And the reason we say that is, and I'll geek out for just 2 seconds here, it's because your brain is literally sending messages of threat to the body at the cellular level, and your cells are turning off the mitochondria, which are powering down your energy production. So the energy that you do have is used for your vital systems to stay alive and not cognitive thinking. And as like Elliot was saying, it's like we become so accustomed to a certain environment, to doing things a certain way, that becomes our story. That becomes our environment. And and if you want to get healthy, right? If you want to attract employees and to keep the high performing ones and reduce that turnover, you've got to focus on what gets them to stay. And it's a high performing leader that is also healthy. Because I have seen high performing leaders out there who can keep it up for a year, maybe two, but they end up tanking their health. And then you lose the confidence down below, because they're looking at this guy going, wow, he's doing really well, but he's drinking a lot, or he's smoking, or wow, that's a lot of food for an appetizer, or whatever the coping mechanism might be. Or you can just see it because they're not sleeping, right?
This is something that actually has come up a lot in my calls recently, is really realizing that, especially, again, for a lot of the people that we're speaking to, it's late 30s, mid 40s and beyond. And the strategies that you used in your 20s and early 30s do not work as you get older, because one, there is definitely a change in your body, but two, it's like, again, that short-term strategy that you've been trying to use as a long-term one starts backfiring on you.
Yep.
And, a lot of people that I know are like, look, I've got another, 2-3 decades of good work in me, but I know that I cannot work at this pace and sustain it. And I don't want to sacrifice my health for success. I want to have both. I want to have success and I want to have health. So I need to figure out a way of how I can actually integrate these two things together, because thus far, what I'm doing now is, they can start to see now the ramifications down the road. And again, the most powerful question you can ask yourself is, if I don't change anything that I'm doing right now, how am I going to feel and where am I going to be in 10 years?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's huge, and probably not with a big employee base or very productive people. And guys, I want to let you know that we're seeing this from the business owner standpoint. People with, I would say, small to medium businesses, all the way up to like big time Fortune 500 companies, in business divisions, where people are having a really hard time keeping high quality people, first attracting people, and the turnover rate is just crazy. Like, it's just like people are staying in their jobs like less and less and less and less. And sometimes it's an average of 6 months, maybe a year if you're lucky. And they just can't keep those employees in. And what ends up happening is it just completely stresses out the manager, right? Or if you're the business owner, or if you're the executive. And next thing you know, you've got all this overwhelm going. It's like, how the hell am I going to get this done? You open up your email box and you're backed up 3 weeks.
Yeah,
right?
At least
you can't do that. And forget the word balance. There is none, right? It's work. And I've got to catch up, playing catch up. And next thing you know, you get out of the shower, you look in the mirror and you just like, wow, it looks like a corpse,
Yeah, and I think what's important too is to look at the other side of the coin, right? So today we're kind of really talking about, employee retention and being an incredible leader, but I also talk to a lot of people that, they just feel like, oh, I have to stop this career, I have to change careers, I have to leave this manager, I have to, change my employees. And what we really want to say is pause and wait before you make any major decisions and get your performance and health in line, and then once you're in a more powerful space, then make those decisions. Because if you make them from a state of exhaustion and fatigue and overwhelm and resentment, and you're just like, ugh, these people don't do what they need to be doing, or ugh, my manager, this, that, the
Yeah.
other, you're going to find yourself in the same position once you leave and find a new spot because you haven't really dealt with the way you're handling your stress. Um, or B, you're just going to make a poor decision, right? Because maybe things are not as terrible as you think they are. And once you get your health and energy back online, you're going to be able to handle things you didn't think you could handle, right? So it's so
Right.
important to first get yourself clear, or as some people would like to say, emotionally sober, right? Getting in a strong, confident place before you start making big decisions about your career or the people that are working with you.
Right. So let's do a small recap. So if you want to reduce your employee turnover, you've got to focus on the things that are going to get them to stay. And that means it's the manager, because people don't leave a company, they leave their boss. And that boss has got to be high performing, number one. Number two, in order to be high performing, they've got to be healthy, right? And that health trickles down because people want that. And number three, it's about integration, not balance. I
Yeah.
cannot stress this enough. I hear it all the time. I was actually at an executive CEO breakfast the other day, and at the end, one of the core presenters was like, "Yeah, we'd really like to have a thing on, how can I have more balance in my life and avoid burnout?" Guys, if you're a high performing person and you're leading a business or leading a business division or a business team, right? It's not about balance. It's about being able to integrate health and adventure into a high performing career. This is the biggest myth of our current modern work life. And that is, balance implies that if I've got a scale, this is heavy over here. And what ends up happening is I've got to balance that out with something that is also heavy, right? That's here. And so it evens out, right? And
Mm.
that's not the thing. You don't want your workload to be heavy. You want your life and your health, and you want to be able to integrate it together. So there's really no visible difference, and that you're actually enjoying your work. You're getting the free time that you want. You're getting the self-care that you want. You've got 5, 10, 15 hours a week to yourself to actually do the things to improve this, right? The body. So the brain can cognitively restructure, or what they call neuroplasticity, rewire, and really get those things out there. And it's going to sound kind of woo-ish, but when you show up as a high-performing, healthy, and you've learned how to integrate health and adventure into that high-performing career, those employees that you've been dreaming about will literally show up at the door. Now, it's not a it's not going to happen overnight, but it happens pretty quickly. The minute that you get your stuff on track and you start taking care of yourself, the employees that you've been thinking about, hoping they're going to show up, are going to start showing up. Right, Elio?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's interesting too, like you're talking about the word balance. And, I think, again, balance is just a word we use. It's a way to describe that we want to include, different things into our life. But again, I think a lot of us, and what you're pointing to, have gotten stuck on this idea that balance is like this, oh, attainable, like this thing of glory that I'm going to attain. And, again, for a lot of people who are perfectionists, that just blocks their progress because they feel like they have to get things perfectly, balanced and aligned. And that's why I think that the integrating is such a powerful word, because you're really looking at, okay, sometimes there are times when you need to push, and, but sometimes there's times when you need to step back. And that's where the magic really happens. And most people don't understand how to create that kind of balance, right?
Right. No, it's really important, and it's really about that integration. So basically, I'm going to put up here, you know, you've got to be healthy, high performing, and in integrating. You've got to be all about integrating. You got to be healthy, high performing, and focus on the integration. And yes, your mind says balance, right? and balanced, right? But it's really about integrating because you're career focused, right?
Yeah.
And you want to make things happen. I mean, you don't want to slide backwards. I talked to a guy yesterday who just hasn't been able to move forward in 7 years, in his career, and he's stuck because
Yeah.
he's got to pass this test, and he just can't get past it, and he's stuck. And if he doesn't do something soon, he's going to learn all the money and all the time and everything he spent trying to get to this level, and it's really sad to see. And
Yeah.
so it's about integrating, right? It's not about substituting. This is where people get it wrong. They think in order for me to be able to focus on my health and be able to have energy, I've got to have life balance. Look, we're not saying that you've got to, when you go, if you're going to take a hike on a mountain, you're going to be working on your cell phone as you walk. That's not what we mean by integration. Okay. We're not talking about multitasking and stacking and all this kind of stuff. We're talking about a mindset shift. We're talking about looking at your life and your work and your performance and your employee turnover rate in a very different way. Because when you show up as a badass, your employees will look at you and start to respect you, and they're going to start having the Kool-Aid that you're drinking or whatever it is that you're having, right?
Yeah.
That's probably a bad analogy, but it's a very addicted, healthy thing, and it leads to ultimately team performance. And guys, if Ellie, do you have anything else you want to say on integration and balance?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So guys, if you are dealing with a high employee turnover rate, you're dealing with low energy levels yourself, you could be performing at a much higher elite level, and you're just struggling to get there, Ellie and I invite you to come over to movethinksmile.com/talk to get on our calendar and book a 45-minute, breakthrough call, discovery call, whatever you want to call it, to chat with us to see about, where you are now, what's the obstacles that are really blocking your progress with your performance, with your energy, with your health, and, what you want to do, where you want to go, what level you want to get to. And we could come up with a game plan on how to exactly get there. There's no cost for these calls, guys. Come on over to movethinksmile.com/talk. And Elia, do you have any other parting shots for that?
I mean, I would just say, if you realize that your current toolkit is not working for you anymore, come on over and join us, and we will give you a brand new toolkit, and you're going to be just rocking and rolling and for the next couple decades of your career, because let's admit it, you're worth it, right? I mean, this you got one life to live. We know that all of you have a powerful impact that you want to make. And when you're feeling good, when you're showing up strong, that's when you can have the most impact. And a lot of us, the reason we run ourselves ragged is we want to make that impact, but then we kind of lose sight of our own energy and lose sight of how to get there. And look, guys, you don't have to do it alone. So come on over and have a chat with us.
Yeah, for anybody just joining us here at the tail end of this live video, in about 30 seconds when we sign off, you can go back, you can watch the whole thing if you want to. It's all about, how stop worrying about employee turnover and focus on the things that are really going to attract those high-performing employees and get them to stay. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening to our podcast, come over to Facebook, look up Move, Think, Smile, follow us, join the group. You'll get more of the live trainings that we do on a weekly basis. Sometimes we do them 2 or 3 times a week. And we also got a lot of interaction going on in our groups. Until then, guys, we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.